everyone, and welcome to another episode of Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. Today we're going to be sitting down with two adoptive moms who are going to share their experience of not just adopting through our agency, but the support they received in connecting with one another. So let's welcome Tracey and Sherri.
Hi ladies.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Can you guys start with just initially talking a little bit about when you became connected to Adoptions from the Heart and kind of the process you went through to eventually meet one another? Do you want to start, Sherri?
Sure. So we started with Adoptions from the Heart in early 2012. It was February. That was actually the first time we sat down with our social worker, which I love to tell people because our daughter was actually born exactly 10 months later. Wow. We got very lucky. It was a quick process for us. So we started in February. We started our ed courses, I think it was in May or June of that year, and that's when we met.
So you guys went to one of the educational courses that the agency requires, and that's when the two of you met.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. And for you, when did you first become affiliated?
So we signed on in April of 2012.
Okay.
And then again went to the same ed courses as Sherri and her husband, and we met there. And our daughter was born about a year and a half later, so in September of 2013. So still fairly quick in the process. Yeah. We both consider ourselves very lucky in that fact. Yeah.
I know oftentimes families, when they're coming into the program, there's a lot of like anxiety and fear, a lot of unknown involved. Talk to me a little bit about what it felt like to meet another person who was kind of going through a similar situation and how you guys ultimately connected.
Yeah, I mean, so just sitting down with other people in the ed courses was really encouraging, right? To see that there was other people going through this process. Sure. You know, as a couple, my husband and I are generally pretty quiet and reserved. And so meeting people and making friends through this process and support wasn't really what we had thought would happen in the beginning. And, you know, so we met Sherri and her husband and a couple other couples. And, you know, through the process we connected, but it was really after our children were born that we really started to connect and say, hey, you know what? This is a support that we need. We have similar likes, interests, and values, and so we just kind of connected through there and just kept it going.
I agree with all of that. I would say too that we have similar parenting styles and approaches, and we also have similar approaches to how important it is to have connections for our children to other people who are going to get it when they're older, and just to be able to connect to other kids. We have this close bond, but I think we also really want that bond for our kids so that in the future when they need to talk to somebody that's not us, they have each other and they'll get what they're going through.
Sure. Right. I love that. You wanted to connect with somebody who really got it, right? And I think as parents in general, right, you try to connect with other parents and kind of find out what people are doing, what's working, what's not. Yeah. And I like that you both took advantage of the resource of having a fellow friend who's also been through the process.
Yeah, that whole, it takes a village. Yeah. Well, in this case, I felt we needed another little arm of that village, right? Because it's very specific. And so while we all have our own villages around us, no one in our families or friends has adopted. Right. And so that was just something that, you know, we found that we would connect on so that we could have that other really good support.
Well, it's just refreshing to have another voice, right?
Yeah.
Because you guys went through this process with your partner. We encourage people at the agency people at the agency encourage families to connect with one another so that they have that support in addition to their social worker. Because really when you go into this, it's you, your partner, if you're adopting as a partnership, and your social worker, and that's it.
That's it.
Right? And sometimes you need that extra person to just be there to guide you and make you feel like, okay, what I'm doing is right. You know?
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the open adoptions that you each have, whether if you do have any openness with the birth parents to your children, and if you guys ever talk about that with each other.
So we are fairly open with my daughter's birth mother. We see her yearly. And we text back and forth every now and then. We haven't really gotten on the phone or FaceTime yet, but we do see her yearly, and as well as her birth grandmother. So her birth mother's mother comes and visits with us as well.
How wonderful. So you've extended the openness beyond birth mom to birth grandmother.
Correct, because she was in the hospital with her when she was born, and so we met her at that time, and then she just comes to the visits with us.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Love that for you.
Yeah.
Ours is a little bit different, and actually speaking to the support that Tracey gives me, she's been on the receiving end of the texts from me when I've been feeling sad, and because our openness and contact is different. So we are similarly open to openness and contact, but we had that for a few years with my daughter's birth mother. But in the last few years, it's been tougher to hear back from her when we contact her, and she hasn't initiated any contact with us.
Okay.
So we hope that that'll change in the future, and we're ready to be there for our daughter's birth mother and also for our daughter, because we know as she gets older, she'll likely want that contact. So that line of communication is always there. It's just quiet right now. And Tracey's been a support for me particularly as we come up to the anniversary to my daughter's birthday, which is coming up, that we don't get that contact. And every year lately, I look for that message and we haven't gotten it. And so she's there to help.
Yeah. As the children get older, our daughters will be there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so when her daughter is craving that, my daughter can support her in that, I think so.
Yeah.
While they're a little bit too young, we don't talk a lot about their openness and those contacts. As they get older, like Sherri was saying, when they're starting to ask questions, they're going to be a very good support for each other around those questions. And not that they're not going to find children in school that have been adopted, but they've grown up together.
Sure.
And so that experience is going to be, I think, very much invaluable, especially in this openness and connection piece, especially for her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you to both of you for committing to that openness, because we have seen kind of a shift in open adoption where currently now one of the struggles we have at the agency is the idea of inconsistent openness.
Mm-hmm.
So birth parents who may come initially and meet adoptive parents may be involved at different parts of their child's life, but then they might take a step back for a few years because they're going through whatever they're going through. And the fact that you both respect that, and particularly you, Sherri, who you're clearly emotional over it because you would love the opportunity for your child's birth parent to come back, really shows your dedication as a parent and your respect for open adoption and birth parents. So that's really, really important, because it can be a struggle. Because if you don't have a birth mom and or a birth father who commits every single year to visits, to receiving pictures and letters, to have them come at different parts of their child's life can be hard, right? That can be a struggle.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to speak on with that?
We constantly remind her that she's loved and that she's lucky because she has extra love. And that even if, her birth mother's life has shifted in such a way where she's, less able to be in contact, she loves her. And that's ultimately what matters. And that in the future, we're there for her and we'll love and support her and help her in whatever way she needs.
I love that. I really, really love that.
I won't change my phone number for that reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Exactly. That's a fantastic point. Like, you want to always have those points of contact that are to be consistent for the birth parents, so that they can, when they're ready, reach out.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you have the door open, right? You've never closed that door. If and when she's ready to come back, you're ready to accept her, to hug her, to embrace her participation in your family. That's great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to kind of share with the community about your experience, the support you have, the ongoing support? Your children are now, what, 8 and 9? You've clearly been in this for a while. Anything else that has helped you, or advice that you have for other families going through the program?
I mean, just, the whole reason that we're here today, right, is to find that support in someone else, right, that you can trust with everything, right? Like, I trust Sherri with my story, with our story, with my daughter's story, right? And I think vice versa,
Likewise.
right? And so there are stories to share at will, as we need to. And so I feel trusting in Sherri to share that story and all pieces of that story, so that I have someone to lean on. So I would say, find your people. Find your village. Find your village. That's right. That's right.
Use the ed courses as your opportunity for that to happen, because whether we would have met or not outside of this experience, it doesn't matter, because you have this huge connection point that it just so happens that we got lucky, that we have a lot in common, and so making that connection and maintaining that friendship has been easy. But even if it doesn't seem like on the surface that connection can be that like quick and as seamless as it was for us, commit to making it happen, because you're gonna want that in the future, and you're gonna be grateful that you have it. And your kids,
I was gonna say,
are gonna be grateful for that too.
And that's a great word, commit. So we committed to this, and there's a third family that we see yearly from our ed classes. So we yearly celebrate National Adoption Day together, as then we have pictures from the children as infants all the way up through, and on the couch and whatever. And so we commit at least yearly to seeing the third family. Sometimes we see them more, sometimes only once a year, but it's something that, again, we've committed to for support for ourselves and for our children. So
You ladies are just awesome. We really, really appreciate you sharing your story, and I'm so grateful that you found one another.
Likewise.
Again, we encourage families to do as Sherri and Tracey did, and definitely connect with people at your courses anytime you're able to, just become around other folks who are going through a similar process. Be a part of that. Thank you so much, and tune in next week.